The sound of dishes crashing echoed through the crowded restaurant. 3 burly men lunged forward, shouting and waving their arms, intent on humiliating a black woman who seemed fragile. But just 15 seconds later, all 3 were sprawled on the floor, eyes wide open in disbelief at what had just happened. Because they had no idea the woman was in fact a Navy operative, trained to confront danger head-on. Where are you watching this story from? Leave a comment below. We're always amazed and delighted to see how our community stretches across the world. And who knows, in the comment section you might even find a new friend from your very own hometown. Don't forget to hit subscribe so you won't miss any of our daily stories of unexpected justice. And if you'd like to give a little extra support, the thanks button right below the video is always there. Every contribution, no matter how small, is a flame that fuels us to bring you even more moving stories. Thank you for being with us. Now let's witness what happens when 3 arrogant men pick the wrong opponent. San Diego at night shone brilliantly like a jewel on the edge of the Pacific Ocean. Crowds still bustled along the downtown streets, neon lights reflecting on the rain-slicked pavement, making the city shimmer even more. In the midst of that lively picture, a quiet figure walked slowly through the crowd. Maya Johnson, 31 years old, a black female Navy SEAL operative who had just returned after more than 18 months of deployment overseas. During that time, she had endured grueling missions in the Middle Eastern deserts, long, tense nights in jungles where not a single moment of vigilance could be lost. Out there, life and death were separated by a single breath, and today, for the first time in nearly 2 years, Maya could stroll down a familiar street with the mindset of an ordinary person, not a soldier, not a warrior, just a woman longing for a quiet evening. She chose a small Italian restaurant on the corner of Broadway, the place that had once been a familiar stop before every long departure. A dark brown wooden sign fogged up window panes, and the faint scent of tomato sauce and cheese drifting in the evening air. Just a single breath of it was enough to soothe her heart. The door opened, revealing the warm atmosphere of a bustling Friday night. The clinking of knives and forks against plates, the cheerful chatter and the lilting Italian melodies from an old speaker hanging in the corner filled the room. Large tables were packed with families engaged in lively conversations. In the smaller corners, couples whispered by candlelight. The scene was so ordinary, so far removed from the brutal battlefields Maya had just left behind. She walked in, exchanged a few quick words with the waiter, then chose a spot at the back of the room, a small table against the wall, giving her a clear view of the entire space. To anyone else, it was just a normal seat, but for Maya, it was a habit forged from years of training and combat. Always observe, always control the field of vision, never leave her back completely exposed to the door. The wooden chair creaked softly as Maya sat down. She set her small bag beside her, slipped off her light jacket, revealing a simple yet elegant black dress. No more heavy uniforms, no more bulletproof vests, no more cumbersome weapons, just an ordinary woman in an elegant dress. Yet in her eyes still gleamed a sharpness that could not be mistaken. Maya ordered her familiar dish, chicken parmesan with tomato sauce and mozzarella. Just hearing the waiter repeat her order already made her feel at ease. A simple dinner, something that in the military was sometimes a luxury. As she waited for her food, Maya relaxed her body, sipping a glass of water. But despite her efforts, her professional instincts made her scan the room. Families laughing, couples in love, busy restaurant staff, everything seemed normal, except for the 3 men sitting at the bar. They looked to be in their late 20s, dressed in suits as if they had just come from a fancy party. Shiny watches on their wrists and polished leather shoes gave the impression of success. But what caught Maya's attention wasn't their appearance, it was their behavior. Empty beer bottles littered the counter before them. Their loud laughter filled the room, mixed with crude jokes directed at tables with young women. Maya frowned and shook her head slightly. She had met their kind before, the sort who were cowards on the battlefield, but loud and aggressive in a crowd. In the military, they called such people troublemakers who don't know when to stop. She turned back as her food was served, the fragrant aroma filling the air. As much as she wanted to enjoy it, she kept half an ear tuned and half her gaze fixed on the bar. The laughter of the three men grew louder, their words more vulgar. The waitstaff, mostly young women, passed by, nervously, clearly harassed, but unwilling to react, intimidated by the suits, the wealth, and the authority the men projected. Maya cut her first bite of chicken, forcing herself to think, "This isn't a mission. This is my night." But 15 years of training and combat habits weren't so easily dismissed. Every potential threat, no matter how small, had to be noted. She recalled moments on the battlefield, a single lapse, and a comrade could fall. Vigilance had become an instinct ingrained into her very bones. Even in the safety of San Diego, inside a cozy restaurant, Maya couldn't switch that instinct off. At the bar, one man slammed his hand on the counter, laughing boisterously. His friend slapped a waitress on the shoulder, saying something that made her blush and hurry away. Maya sighed, gripping her utensils tighter. She wanted to ignore it, but her gut told her this would not end with mere noise. Her eyes settled on a young couple nearby, a thin young man and his girlfriend, perhaps just in their early 20s. They sat closest to the three men and were clearly becoming the focus of the mockery. The young woman avoided the men's stares, her hand gripping her glass of water, shoulders trembling. Maya's fingers tightened slightly around her fork. Inside her, a sense of foreboding began to rise. She had no idea that within minutes the entire restaurant would witness a scene no one could ever forget when those three men crossed the final line. The raucous laughter from the bar grew louder and louder, shattering the cozy atmosphere of the restaurant. Diners nearby began exchanging annoyed glances. Some shook their heads while others quietly pulled their chairs back to keep their distance. The three men, clearly drunk, paid no attention to the reactions around them. They wore well-fitted suits, polished leather shoes, and perfectly groomed hair, as if they had just stepped out of a lavish party. At first glance, they looked like successful businessmen, but a few overheard words were enough to expose their true nature: arrogant, contemptuous, and dangerous when emboldened by alcohol. One of them, a tall, broad-shouldered man built like a football player, slammed his beer bottle down on the counter, foam splashing everywhere. His booming voice deliberately drowned out the soft Italian music playing through the restaurant. "Ha, look at that one over there. Damn, those legs deserve to be admired. Sitting here's such a waste." The laughter of the other two followed, making the young woman at the nearby table flush red, turning away quickly. Her boyfriend immediately ducked his head, pretending to study the menu in an attempt to hide his embarrassment. The second man, average build but with shifty, calculating eyes, waved at a waitress. "Hey, sweetheart, bring more wine and smile a little more, will you? It's a fun night after all." The young waitress forced a strained smile, set the bottle down, and retreated as quickly as possible. She knew their type all too well: loud, wealthy-looking, and dangerous. The restaurant manager noticed the situation from afar, but he simply stood behind the counter, anxiously checking the clock as if waiting for his shift to end. From her corner table, Maya observed every detail. The danger signs were piling up. In the military, she had been trained to distinguish between harmless noise and real threat, and tonight everything was tipping toward the latter. The third man, skinny but loud-mouthed, began staggering away from the bar with a glass of wine in hand. He wobbled past tables, tossing crude remarks at any woman sitting alone. Some ignored him, some frowned, but no one dared to speak up. Maya noticed the discomfort spreading throughout the restaurant while the staff avoided the trio, afraid of provoking customers who looked rich and powerful. Maya took a deep breath, telling herself, "Be patient, just watch. If it ends here, I don't need to step in." But things quickly went beyond what she had anticipated. 20 minutes passed and the noise didn't fade, it doubled. The three had downed at least 4 more beers and a bottle of red wine. Their faces were flushed, their eyes wild. Their voices dripped with arrogance as though challenging the entire room. Their attention shifted toward the young couple Maya had noticed earlier. The girl, barely in her 20s, kept her face lowered toward her plate, shoulders trembling. Her boyfriend tried to shield her, but it was obvious he lacked the strength to confront three large men. "Hey, gorgeous," the tall one bellowed, standing up and pointing directly at their table. "Don't waste your youth on that scrawny kid. Come here, I'll show you what a real man is." Laughter erupted, spreading across the restaurant, but no one was amused. Many diners shook their heads in disgust. Others pulled out their phones, pretending to be busy to avoid drawing attention. The young woman shook her head, trembling. Her boyfriend tried to stay calm, his voice quiet but firm. "Please leave us alone. This is our private time." The words were like gasoline on fire. The tall man roared with laughter, then suddenly strode to their table. He leaned down, bracing a hand on the back of her chair, his face just inches from hers. His voice was raspy, thick with the stench of alcohol. "Do you know how many women would kill to have me notice them? Don't waste your golden chance, sweetheart." Terrified, the young woman turned away, clutching her boyfriend's arm. The young man trembled, but still tried to push the intruder back. "Please, that's enough. Step away." That was the moment everything crossed the line. The tall man suddenly grabbed the girl's arm and yanked her out of her chair. The chair toppled backward, crashing against the tiled floor with a sharp thud. The entire restaurant fell silent. Her boyfriend leapt up, trying to pull her back, but the difference in strength was overwhelming. The other two men howled with laughter, clapping and cheering him on. At a nearby table, someone opened their mouth to intervene, but froze when confronted with the trio's menacing stance. The restaurant staff scrambled to the back. Some had clearly called the police, but everyone knew the authorities would take minutes to arrive, and in this moment every second was too long for the frightened young woman. In the chaos, her panicked eyes accidentally met the calm gaze from the corner of the room where Maya Johnson sat. The young woman's fear and silent plea reflected in those deep black eyes, and with just one look, Maya understood. The time to rise had come. Maya set her fork down on her plate and dabbed her mouth with a napkin. Every muscle in her body tensed like a tiger ready to strike. The Italian music faded away, the candlelight vanished, everything around her blurred. Only one mission remained before her: to stop the three dangerous men before things spun completely out of control. She rose to her feet, her chair scraped back with a harsh sound. Maya moved forward, slow, deliberate steps, but her eyes already burned with unwavering resolve. Diners began to sense that something was about to happen. Their gazes followed the small, framed woman whose presence carried an unexplainable force. Then she stopped, just a few steps from the men. Maya's voice cut through the heavy air, not loud, but sharp as a blade, slashing open the tension. "Enough!" The cozy atmosphere of the Italian restaurant instantly turned into a tense silence, taut like a drawn violin string. Every eye fixed on the table where the young couple sat. The girl yanked to her feet, struggled with trembling hands to break free from the rough grip clamped tightly around her arm. The young man beside her, thin and frail, tried to hold on, but he was like a fragile leaf caught in a storm. The tall man, the clear ringleader, pulled the girl closer. A leering grin plastered across his alcohol-flushed face. "Hey, sweetheart, ditch that kid. Come with us, and you'll know what real fun is." His voice was low and husky, reeking of liquor enough to make anyone sick. The other two wasted no time egging him on. The skinny one whistled, raising his wine glass with a cackle. "That's right, show that kid what a real man is." The stockier one positioned himself right next to their table, eyes darting menacingly as if daring anyone to intervene. The girl writhed in despair, her wide eyes brimming with fear. She couldn't even scream. Her throat seemed locked tight. In that panicked glance, for a fleeting moment, her gaze met Maya Johnson's. Maya stood only a few steps away, calm but resolute. She didn't need words. Her look alone conveyed the message. "Stay calm, I'm here." The young man's voice shook, cracking as he pleaded, "Please, let go of my girlfriend. We're not looking for trouble, just leave us alone." But his words drifted away like smoke. The tall man only tightened his grip, his fingers digging red marks into the girl's delicate skin. Around them, whispers began to ripple. An older man shook his head, muttering to his wife, "This is bad, but is no one going to step in?" The woman bit her lip, eyes full of worry. "They're too aggressive. Look, even the manager's afraid." Indeed, the manager stood behind the bar, hands trembling as he clutched the phone, mumbling hurriedly to the police dispatcher. But everyone knew the truth. The authorities couldn't arrive immediately. In those few short minutes, anything could happen. Some diners seemed ready to stand up, but the stocky man's threatening stare froze them in place. They sank back into their seats, holding their breath. The entire room was bound by suffocating silence, broken only by the girls' gasping breaths and the men's vile laughter. Inside Maya's mind, everything was clear. She had seen this kind of moment too many times, where hesitation meant loss. She saw the fear in the young woman's eyes, the helplessness of the young man, the silence of everyone else, and she knew this was the moment she could not stay seated. Maya stepped forward, her voice ringing out calm but firm, cutting through the air for everyone to hear. "Let her go." The three men snapped their heads around, surprise flickering before giving way to sneers. The tall one smirked, still clutching the girl's arm. "Oh, look at this. A little lady wants to play hero. Listen, sit down before you get yourself hurt." The skinny one cackled shrilly, stepping closer to Maya. "Or maybe you want to join in. We've got room for you too, sweetheart." The room collectively held its breath. No one believed a woman of Maya's ordinary build could face three drunken, hulking men, but in her deep, dark eyes there was no fear, only a cold, unwavering resolve, as if she had been preparing for this moment all her life. Maya repeated each word, sharp as steel. "I'll say this once more. Let her go. Now." Her voice wasn't loud, but it reverberated across the room. It carried the weight of thousands of hours of training, of battles fought on the razor's edge of life and death. This wasn't a request, it was a command. The young woman looked at Maya, her eyes shimmering with hope. The young man swallowed hard, as if drawing courage from her presence. But the three men only laughed louder, mocking the warning as if it were a joke. The tall one leaned close, whispering into the girl's ear, but loud enough for Maya to hear, "Who does that little chick think she is? This is men's business. Stay out of it or you'll regret it." Then he turned, raking his eyes over Maya from head to toe. His lips curled in contempt. "And you better sit back down. We don't want to hurt a weak little woman." No one in the restaurant knew that with those words, he had just lit the fuse to a storm. Maya didn't move, but inside every sense was heightened. Her stance shifted just slightly enough to brace for anything. She knew at the first wrong move from them, she would unleash everything she had. And that moment was coming. The skinny one who had just drained his wine glass lunged forward, reaching out to shove Maya hard on the shoulder, his mouth spewing taunts. "Either sit down or show us what you've got, little girl." The restaurant froze in breathless silence. Everyone knew just one touch, and there would be no turning back. In Maya's eyes, a cold glint flared. The storm was about to break. The atmosphere in the restaurant was stretched tight, like a string about to snap. Every eye was fixed on the petite black woman, now standing face to face with three drunken, aggressive men. The room was utterly silent, broken only by the ragged breathing of the young girl, whose arm was still pinned in a brutal grip. The skinny man had just swung his hand forward, about to shove Maya hard on the shoulder, his mouth twisted in a mocking grin, but at that very instant Maya's voice rang out, calm yet sharp as ice. "Stop. This is your final warning." Her tone wasn't loud, but it cut through the noise like an arrow. It was not a plea nor a request. It was an order. An order delivered by someone who had faced countless life-and-death moments, someone who knew how to stay steady even in the most chaotic of storms. The skinny man froze for a split second, startled by the confidence radiating from such a small woman. Then he burst into shrill laughter. "Oh, that sounded serious. What are you going to do, sweetheart? Call the manager or the cops?" The other two roared with mocking laughter. The tall man tightened his grip on the girl's arm, forcing a cry of pain from her lips. "Listen, little lady," he growled. "This isn't your business. Sit down and stay out of it, or you'll regret it. Maya didn't flinch. She stood rooted, her eyes sharp as blades locked onto the tall man. Something in that look made him falter, a fleeting sense that he was staring at something far more dangerous than the delicate figure before him. Maya inhaled slowly, evenly, keeping her heartbeat steady. In her mind, she was already calculating every scenario, every potential reaction, every angle in the cramped space, all of it registered within seconds. It was the instinct of a special operator, a skill that never faded, whether on a battlefield or in the glow of an Italian restaurant. "Let her go," Maya said again, each word crystal clear. "This is your last chance to walk out of here unharmed." The diners shuddered. Her tone carried the weight of a judge handing down a sentence. The girl's tearful eyes clung desperately to Maya's words. The young man, trembling, felt a strange surge of courage radiating from the woman standing there. But the three men only laughed harder. The stocky one folded his arms, shaking his head. "God, she thinks she's a cop." Then he stepped forward closer to Maya, his voice dropping low and menacing. "If you don't want trouble, then leave." Now, in that moment, with just a glance, Maya knew they would not back down. Alcohol and arrogance had blinded them. Warnings meant nothing to men like this. She drew a steady breath and replied calmly, "I told you, this is your last chance." No one in the restaurant fully grasped what that meant. For Maya, once she issued a final warning, it meant she was already prepared to act. In the military, she had been trained, always give the enemy one chance to back down before using force. But if that chance was ignored, she would strike without hesitation. The skinny man, impatient, spat a curse and thrust his hand toward Maya's shoulder, shoving hard in an attempt to knock her back. It was a fatal mistake. In that split second, Maya had all the confirmation she needed. To her, this was no longer a threat, but an attack. And under the rules of defense, she was fully justified to respond. The restaurant held its breath. Diners sat frozen, staff huddled behind the counter, eyes wide as they waited. No one knew what was about to happen, but everyone felt it. A storm was about to break. Maya lowered her stance, a cold glint flashing in her eyes. Her body shifted into combat mode, no wasted movement, no hesitation. In her head, the familiar command echoed, "Act fast, act decisively, use the minimum force required to neutralize the threat." The room was so silent the ticking of the clock could be heard. And then, the skinny man's hand landed on Maya's shoulder. That was the moment the boundary shattered. The moment the skinny man's hand touched Maya's shoulder, the entire room seemed to stop breathing. It looked like a simple shove, but in Maya's world, it was the boundary from threat to direct attack. And once that boundary was crossed, she had no reason left to stand still. In an instant, 15 years of training and combat experience surged through her like instinct. Maya's body moved before her mind could even form a command. With lightning speed, she pivoted, seized her opponent's wrist, and twisted sharply. The force of his own body turned against him, producing a chilling crack, not enough to break bone, but enough to make his joints scream in protest. Before he could utter a sound, his face was slammed against the tiled floor, his body immobilized. The takedown happened so fast that diners hadn't even registered what occurred. A second earlier, the man had been laughing obnoxiously. A second later, he was sprawled on the floor, gasping for air. The tall man, the one still gripping the young woman's arm, was stunned. He released her, instantly spinning around and growling like a beast. He towered over Maya by nearly a head, outweighing her by at least 60 pounds. To onlookers, the fight was absurdly uneven, but Maya knew size had never determined the outcome of a confrontation. He charged, fists swinging wildly, his drunken rage fueling speed but not precision. To an ordinary person it could have been dangerous, but to Maya each blow was slow, sloppy, full of openings. She leaned right, letting the first punch miss by a hair. At the same time, her left hand snapped up, striking the nerve cluster at the base of his neck, a target she had drilled thousands of times in close-quarters combat training. The result was immediate. The giant froze, his legs buckling. He staggered, then crashed into a nearby table. Glasses and porcelain plates shattered, food splattering everywhere. The deafening crash only magnified the shock of the witnesses. In less than 5 seconds, 2 of the 3 men were completely neutralized. The last one, the stocky man with shifty eyes, suddenly realized the tide had turned. Seeing his 2 companions down, survival instinct took over. He spun and bolted for the door, but Maya was ready. 2 quick steps put her squarely in his path. In desperation, he tried to shove her aside to break free. But with a simple hip turn, Maya redirected his momentum, letting his own force betray him. The result, he stumbled violently, crashing to the floor near the entrance. He slid half a meter across the tiles, his clothes disheveled, before collapsing like a fighter thrown from the ring. It was over, and the clock had ticked only 15 seconds. The restaurant was dead silent. Every diner sat frozen as if they had just watched a slow-motion film. But this wasn't cinema. This was real. A woman who seemed ordinary had dropped 3 aggressive men in the blink of an eye, without weapons, without help. The young woman stood trembling, red marks etched into her freed arm. Her boyfriend wrapped her tightly in his arms, fear and awe mixed on his face. They both looked at Maya with gratitude and reverence, as if at a savior who had appeared from nowhere. Maya lowered her shoulders and drew a slow breath. Her eyes swept over the 3 fallen men one by one, the skinny one groaning, clutching his wrist on the ground. The tall one sprawled amidst overturned tables, the stocky one writhing by the door, all of them incapacitated, no longer a threat. Only once she was sure the danger was gone did Maya turn to the couple. Her voice calm and steady, so different from the chaos just moments before, broke the silence. "Are you all right? Do you need an ambulance?" The girl shook her head rapidly, tears streaming down her cheeks, but her eyes brimming with gratitude. I'm fine, thank you. Thank you so much." Her voice trembled, choked with emotion. The young man still seemed unable to believe what he had seen. What did you just do? It was so fast. I've never seen anyone." He couldn't finish, only staring at Maya in shock. Around them, the air began to stir. Some diners broke into quiet applause. Others pulled out phones to record the scene. Whispers rippled across the room. "Who is she? She must be trained. Unbelievable." Restaurant staff slowly emerged from behind the counter, their eyes wide. The manager, pale from fear moments before, finally muttered, "My God, that really was only 15 seconds." Maya gave no answer. She returned calmly to her table, picked up the napkin that had fallen, and set it neatly in place. The gesture was so simple, so ordinary, that it startled those watching. The woman who had just dismantled 3 attackers in 15 seconds now looked as if she had simply finished dinner. But everyone knew nothing about this was ordinary anymore. In every heart swelled the same emotions: astonishment, respect, and an unshakable curiosity. Who was this small woman really? How could she move with such speed, precision, and control? The answer wouldn't come yet. But one truth was certain tonight: this little restaurant had witnessed a moment that would be retold for years, the 15 seconds of destiny. The 3 men lay scattered on the floor, still dazed from those lightning-fast 15 seconds. One clutched his wrist, groaning in pain. The tall one panted amidst the wreckage of overturned tables, and the stocky one crawled near the door, his eyes a mix of panic and fury. The restaurant was dead silent, no one able to believe what had just happened. Then, breaking the silence, the tall man suddenly lurched to his feet, his face flushed not only with alcohol, but also with humiliation. He jabbed a finger at Maya, growling, She's crazy. We were just talking, and she attacked us." His slander rang through the room, making everyone stir. The other 2 immediately joined in. The skinny one, face twisted in pain, hissed through his teeth, "That's right, we didn't do anything. She just snapped, came at us like a maniac, twisted my arm. I think it's broken." The stocky one clutched his chest and added, "We were just having some fun. She's the one who started it. Someone call the cops. This woman is dangerous." The blatant lies left some in momentary shock. Their fabrication was audacious, but wasn't society full of such attempts to turn victims into perpetrators? The restaurant manager stood frozen sweat dripping down his forehead. He stepped out into the center, his voice trembling. "Pete, please, everyone stay calm. We'll wait for the police to handle this. I don't want any more trouble here." Maya remained still. She didn't react, didn't defend herself. Her dark eyes rested calmly on the three shouting men. Her silence puzzled some, but to Maya there was no rush. She knew the truth would speak for itself. And right then, a firm voice rose from the corner. An elderly man with silver hair, thin frame, but piercing eyes rose from his seat. He tapped his cane sharply against the floor, the sound echoing through the room. "Enough. I saw everything. You three were drunk, harassing women, dragging that young lady out of her chair. This woman only intervened when you refused to let go. Stop twisting the truth." His words rang like a bell, shattering the cloud of doubt. Several diners immediately nodded in agreement. A middle-aged woman sitting with her family near the door stood up as well. "That's right, I saw it all. You terrified my daughter so much, she was afraid to go to the restroom. If it weren't for this woman, I don't know what would have happened." The room erupted in murmurs. Some criticized, others shook their heads in disgust. One by one, voices rose, forming a wall of truth against the men's lies. The young couple, the direct victims, now stepped forward trembling. The thin young man gathered his courage and said loudly, "She saved us. If it weren't for her, my girlfriend would have been dragged away. We begged you to stop again and again, but you wouldn't. She only protected us." The young woman beside him, eyes red from tears, lifted her arm where red marks still showed from the grip. "This is proof. He grabbed me, hurt me this badly. And now you dare say you were just talking?" The murmurs turned into open condemnation. Several people raised their phones. "I recorded everything. The restaurant cameras did too." The three men paled. They hadn't expected so many to speak out, nor that people had filmed it. Their arrogance dissolved into panic. Yet drunk as they were, they still tried to salvage their story. "You don't understand. She knows martial arts or something. She took us down with just one move. She's dangerous. If we don't report her, who knows what she'll do next?" The skinny one stammered, his voice cracking. The weak excuse only fueled more outrage. A young man at the next table shouted, "You should be ashamed. You got drunk, harassed women, and now you blame the one who stood up to protect them, cowards." A round of applause broke out. The truth was asserting itself stronger than any false accusation. Maya stayed silent. She didn't need to argue. She knew every witness's words, every recording on phones or the restaurant's cameras would prove everything. Her calm gaze and steady breathing only deepened the respect people felt for her. The restaurant manager, now regaining composure, nodded firmly. "That's right, my staff and I witnessed it all. These three disrupted the entire evening, harassing multiple tables. We were about to ask them to leave when this happened. This woman only defended herself and protected our customers. When the police arrive, I will testify." The three men glanced at one another, fear creeping into their eyes. Their plan to twist the truth and escape had collapsed. The angry whispers and condemning stares from the crowd pressed them deeper into the corner. Then came the wail of a siren in the distance. Blue and red lights flashed across the restaurant windows. The air shifted. The law was about to arrive. Maya drew a deep breath. She knew the battle of fists was over. But the battle of words, of law, and of truth was only just beginning. The wail of sirens grew louder outside, blue and red lights flashing across the restaurant windows. Moments later, the door swung open, and three police officers entered, their boots striking firmly against the tiled floor. The tense air inside froze solid. At the front was Sergeant Maria Rodriguez, a veteran with over 15 years in the force. Her sharp eyes swept across the scene, overturned tables and chairs, shattered glasses, three disheveled men on the floor, and a petite black woman standing calmly at the far end of the room. Her instincts told Maria this was no ordinary brawl. "What happened here?" she asked, her voice clear and steady, slicing through the chaos. Immediately the tall man scrambled up, pointing a finger at Maya, shouting her. She attacked us. We were just talking, and she went crazy on us. His companions quickly chimed in. The skinny one clutched his wrist, groaning, "She's insane." She suddenly twisted my arm, threw me to the floor. "I think my wrist is broken. We want to press charges for assault." The stocky man added, his voice shaky but loud. "That's right, she knows martial arts or something. Her moves were dangerous. If we hadn't stopped her, she might have killed someone." Their accusations came thick and fast, trying to drown Maya in guilt. The officers took notes, but Maria didn't rush to judgment. She had seen too many cases like this, and experience taught her the louder the denial, the quicker the blame shifting, the guiltier the party often was. She turned to Maya. The woman stood tall, face composed, eyes unwavering. She didn't look like a troublemaker, much less a bloodthirsty fighter. Maria tilted her head slightly, signaling, "Ma'am, can you tell us what happened?" Maya nodded. Her voice was calm, her words precise as though prepared. These 3 men were intoxicated and harassed multiple women in the restaurant. When they dragged a young woman from her seat and refused to let her go, I stepped in and asked them to stop. One of them then put his hand on me, intending to push me. According to self-defense principles, I used the minimum necessary force to stop them and protect those around me. Her account was concise and steady, in stark contrast to the men's frantic shouting, but words alone weren't enough. In such cases, evidence would decide everything. Maria's eyes swept the room. Did anyone witness what happened? Voices rose at once. I saw it all. "Officer, they grabbed that young woman, trying to force her," the elderly man with silver hair declared, standing tall. "My daughter was so terrified by these 3 that she didn't dare go to the restroom. This woman saved the whole restaurant." The middle-aged mother added, eyes glistening. "We're the victims," the thin young man said, trembling as he led his girlfriend forward. They dragged her from her chair. I begged them to stop. "This woman saved us." The girl raised her arm, red marks still visible. "This is proof." He gripped me so hard it left this, and they dare say it was just talking. The murmurs swelled into a chorus of protest. Many diners raised their phones. I recorded it. The restaurant cameras have it too. Maria raised her hand for silence, then ordered her team, "Check the surveillance system. Collect video from witnesses." An officer approached the counter where the manager nervously handed over a hard drive. Everything is recorded. Please check it." Meanwhile, the 3 men turned pale. Their confidence wavered, but they still tried to push back. The tall one shouted, "Those videos don't show everything. We were just joking. She's the dangerous one." Maria crossed her arms, her gaze cold as steel. Dangerous with her build, against 3 drunken, well-built men harassing a young woman. "Are you sure you want to stick with that claim?" He froze, words dying in his throat, his eyes darting nervously. Minutes later, the officer returned with a tablet video footage loaded. The entire restaurant held its breath as the recording played. Every frame was clear, the 3 men causing chaos, dragging the young woman from her seat, grotesque smiles on their faces, the fear in her eyes. Then Maya stepping in, speaking calmly, though her words weren't recorded. And finally, the moment the skinny man shoved her shoulder, followed by her lightning-fast takedowns, leaving all 3 sprawled on the ground. No blind spots, no hidden detail. The truth shone unmistakably. Maria closed the tablet, her voice firm. "You 3 are under arrest for assault, harassment, and disturbing the peace. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used as evidence in court." The clink of handcuffs echoed. The men burst out screaming, "No, this is unfair. We're the victims. She could have killed us," but their cries drowned beneath the cold stares of the crowd. Diners applauded as the men were led out. Others exhaled in relief as if waking from a nightmare. Maria turned back to Maya, studying her carefully before nodding with respect. "You stayed remarkably calm. In 15 years, I've rarely seen anyone handle a situation like that. Have you had formal training?" Maya gave a faint smile and answered simply, I have some background. The reply only deepened Maria's certainty. This woman was no ordinary civilian. But she asked no further. What mattered was that the truth was clear and justice had just been served on the spot. Maya turned to the young couple, giving them a reassuring nod. The girl burst into tears in her boyfriend's arms while he stumbled over words of gratitude. Other diners stepped forward too, shaking Maya's hand, their words filled with admiration. In that moment, under the flashing blue and red lights of the patrol cars, outside Maya Johnson stood tall, her expression composed as if nothing had happened. But everyone in that restaurant knew they had just witnessed something extraordinary, the courage and strength of a woman who turned a night of terror into a lesson in justice. As the three men were handcuffed and escorted out by police, the atmosphere in the restaurant burst open. Sighs of relief, handshakes of gratitude, and waves of applause rippled through the room. The restaurant manager bowed repeatedly to Maya. "Thank you. If it weren't for you, I don't know how tonight might have turned into a tragedy. We'll take care of your meal free of charge." Maya only gave a faint smile and nodded politely. She hadn't acted for favors nor for praise. For her, it was simply instinct, the instinct of someone trained to protect the lives around her. But Maya had no idea this was only the beginning. Several diners had recorded the entire incident on their phones. That very night, the clips began circulating online with sensational headlines. "Tiny woman takes down three men. In 15 seconds, the heroine of the Italian restaurant. Who is she, real or staged?" The video setting social media on fire. Within hours, the footage was shared tens of thousands of times. Comments flooded in, most filled with astonishment and admiration. "Unbelievable, she moves like special forces. She's living proof. Never underestimate someone by their appearance. Please find out her identity. I need to know who she is." By the next morning, local newspapers splashed the story on their front pages. Channel 8, San Diego, sent reporters directly to the restaurant to interview witnesses. They recounted every detail: Maya's calm approach, her resolute warning, and the lightning-fast takedown of three aggressors. The elderly man with silver hair, the first to defend Maya, spoke to the camera with pride. "I'm a veteran. I've seen plenty of fights. But I'll tell you this, I've never seen a woman move that fast, that precise. She didn't just save the young lady, she saved the entire restaurant from a nightmare." The story quickly spread beyond San Diego. National news outlets picked it up. Martial arts experts and former military personnel were invited to analyze the footage. They slowed it down frame by frame, pointing out every movement: the wrist lock, the dodge, the nerve strike. One retired Marine commented live on television, "This isn't ordinary self-defense." The way she controlled the situation, used the attackers' momentum, and neutralized them with minimal moves. That's the skill set of a special operator. I'd bet anything she's been trained at the highest level. The more they analyzed, the more speculation grew. The name Maya Johnson began to surface after a few witnesses recalled the restaurant manager addressing her. Soon her name was circulating across forums. Meanwhile, Maya chose silence. She kept to her routine morning workouts, visiting her mother in the suburbs, then returning to her small apartment. But her phone buzzed non-stop messages from friends, former teammates, even strangers, all asking the same thing. "Was that you? Are you the woman in the video?" At the base, news had already reached her chain of command. Colonel Robert Hayes, her direct superior, called her into his office. A battle-hardened man behind wire-rimmed glasses. His tone was half reproach, half understanding. "Johnson, you know we always advise our operators to keep a low profile off duty. But this is out of control. The whole country's talking about you." Maya sat upright, voice calm. "Sir, I acted as any citizen should. They were being attacked, and I did what was necessary to protect others." Hayes studied her for a long moment before nodding. "I know, and you did exactly what a Navy SEAL is expected to do. But now, unfortunately, this has gone far beyond you." He slid a folder across the desk, press clippings, photos, streams of commentary, and a memo from the Navy's Public Affairs Office. "We need to prepare an official statement." Maya exhaled softly. She had never sought the spotlight. To her, service was duty, not spectacle. But now the secret was unraveling, and she knew she couldn't hide much longer. On social media, the wave of support only grew stronger. Thousands of comments poured in. "Thank you for proving that justice can come from anyone. I want my daughter to grow up strong like her." This is the heroine of a new era. Even more striking, young people, especially women, were suddenly researching military enlistment, inspired by Maya's story. Recruitment centers reported a surge in calls within just a week. For Maya, the overwhelming attention felt like a burden. She had always preferred quiet discipline and missions shrouded in secrecy. But now her identity was being revealed piece by piece. From what she had hoped would be a peaceful dinner, Maya had suddenly become the nation's focal point, and in her heart one question echoed: could she continue living as before, or had everything changed forever? The incident at the Italian restaurant in San Diego did not end when the three men were handcuffed and taken away by police. In truth, it was only the beginning of a long chain of consequences they never expected. Just 2 days later, the county court officially charged all three with multiple offenses: assault, sexual harassment, disturbing the peace, and resisting law enforcement. The viral video circulating online became ironclad evidence. Witnesses lined up to testify, from the silver-haired veteran to the young couple and numerous other diners. Everything was so clear that even their defense lawyers had no room left to argue. The tall man, David Morrison, had been a marketing director at a multinational corporation. By day, he was the picture of success: tailored suits, luxury car, boasting of his six-figure salary. But once the news broke, his company immediately released a statement: "We do not tolerate any unethical conduct contrary to our values of respect and diversity." David was suspended on the spot pending investigation. Within weeks, he was formally terminated. Former colleagues whispered, who would have thought the guy preaching equality in boardrooms was the same man harassing women in public? The skinny man, James Wheeler, was an employee at a prestigious law firm. With a glowing academic record and lofty ambitions, he had once dreamed of becoming a senior partner. But now his professional profile was permanently tainted. When the firm's leadership saw the video, they didn't hesitate to issue his termination letter. A young lawyer caught committing assault and harassment. His career was over overnight. The stocky man, Kevin Torres, worked in finance. His company had strict rules. Any involvement in violence or harassment meant immediate dismissal. Kevin was fired within days and had his financial advisor's license revoked. For a man whose livelihood depended on investment consulting, it was nothing less than a death sentence for his career. The three men who had once strutted into the restaurant in suits brimming with arrogance now faced unemployment, disgrace, and looming jail sentences. Newspapers published their names and titles alongside humiliating photos of them being escorted away in cuffs. The trial was swift. After hearing testimony after testimony and reviewing the evidence, the judge sentenced each to 6 to 12 months of probation, along with community service, anger management classes, and mandatory restitution. They were also ordered to compensate the restaurant for damages and fined for causing reputational and emotional harm to its patrons. But the legal sentence was not the harshest blow. What truly crushed them was the verdict of public opinion. On social media, they were mocked with nicknames: the Three Dirty-Suited Gentlemen, the 15-Second Trio, the men who learned the most expensive lesson of their lives. The video of Maya taking them down was shared millions of times, turning them into a national laughingstock. Meanwhile, the restaurant itself became an unexpected hotspot. Crowds flocked not just for chicken parmesan, but to see the legendary table where Maya had sat that night. The manager even placed a small sign in the corner. Here, one woman stood up for justice. "Thank you, Maya Johnson." The community rallied as well. Universities invited Maya to speak at conferences on bystander intervention, the skills to step in when witnessing harassment. Nonprofit organizations used her story as inspiration in programs against gender-based violence. The young couple, the direct victims, came to see Maya as their savior. They actively joined awareness campaigns, sharing their experience at youth forums. We were helpless. No one dared step in until she did. Without Maya, we wouldn't have been safe. She taught us that when one person stands up, everything can change. As for Maya, she remained humble. When asked for comment, she simply said, "I did what anyone should do, protect others when they're in danger. I'm not a hero, just a citizen who couldn't look away." Yet it was precisely that humility that made public admiration swell even more. Evening news programs praised her as the woman who turned 15 seconds into a lesson in justice. Editorials called Maya a symbol of strength for women and for the Black community, groups often underestimated in society. While the three men paid dearly for their drunken aggression, Maya became a beacon of inspiration. Young women across the country began posting videos of themselves training in martial arts with captions, "I want to be as strong as Maya." Martial arts centers and self-defense classes reported a surge in enrollments. The consequences of one drunken night and a moment of arrogance had dragged three men who thought themselves untouchable into ruin. But conversely, Maya's 15 seconds of courage ignited a wave of positivity across the nation. After the trial, one might have thought public attention would fade, but in reality, the opposite happened. The story of Maya Johnson did not end with a scuffle in a restaurant. It gradually became a symbol, a powerful reminder of courage and the strength of justice. The image of Maya in her simple shirt, her eyes sharp but calm, taking only 15 seconds to bring down three men, now appeared everywhere on the evening news, in print newspapers, and across thousands of viral videos on social media. At first, Maya was uneasy. She had never expected to become the center of media attention. As a Navy special operator, her instinct was always to stay hidden, to remain in the shadows. But now the truth was out. Women's organizations and civil rights groups for the Black community continuously sent her invitations. The press called her the woman who turned a dangerous moment into a life lesson. Maya rejected most sensational interview requests, but agreed to join community talks, especially in schools and youth training centers. At one such event, she looked at the crowd of high school students sitting in silence and spoke with steady conviction. "You don't have to be a Navy SEAL to protect others. Sometimes just a word of intervention, just one action to stand with justice, can change everything." Her words echoed, planting seeds of belief in young hearts that they too could make a difference. The three men, after their sentencing, vanished from public view, but their downfall became a cautionary tale. Major corporations began organizing training sessions on public conduct and respect for diversity. Many restaurants and bars displayed signs, "No tolerance for harassment." Some universities even incorporated Maya's incident into their sociology and law lectures. Students analyzed the case from legal, ethical, and community psychology perspectives. What happened in the restaurant was no longer just a personal story, but a case study for an entire generation. The young couple, those who had trembled as they were dragged from their seats, would never forget that night. In a moving university speech, the young man choked up as he said, "We thought no one would help." But Maya stood up. She showed us that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's acting in spite of fear. The couple decided to join public awareness campaigns against harassment. They became familiar faces at seminars, always crediting Maya as their greatest source of inspiration. In the military training, officers used Maya's story to illustrate the values of courage, integrity, respect. Her former teammates said they had never felt prouder to see a Black female operator embody the finest qualities of the force. In the Black community, Maya Johnson's name became a symbol of pride. Many young women saw themselves in her, A woman underestimated by society, now proving that strength has no gender or color. One journalist wrote Maya did not just protect a young woman in a restaurant. She protected the belief that justice exists and that it can begin with any one of us. As time passed, the small plaque in the restaurant corner still stood gleaming behind protective glass. Here, a woman stood up for justice. Thank you, Maya Johnson. Visitors often pause to take photos, leaving comments online with the hashtag #BeLikeMaya. Parents would tell their children the story as they walked past, planting an early lesson about courage. For Maya, it had been nothing more than doing the right thing at the right time, but for society, it had become a legacy, a torch that illuminated belief and communal strength. One evening in a packed auditorium of students, Maya paused for a moment after retelling her story. She looked into the hundreds of eyes fixed on her and smiled. You know, justice doesn't always need a gun or a uniform. Sometimes it just needs one person to say no when they see something wrong. If I could do it, then any one of you can too. The hall erupted in a standing ovation, and in that moment Maya realized her actions that day had gone far beyond those 15 seconds in a restaurant. They had become a living legacy, a strength that would spread forever. Today's story has come to a close, but the legacy Maya left behind still resonates. Truth and justice will always live in the hearts of those who dare to stand up. If you believe that courage can change the world, give us a like, share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to hit subscribe. Every view, every bit of support from you is the strength that allows us to keep bringing stories that touch the heart about faith, justice, and resilience. While waiting for the next story, take a look at the other videos we've already prepared right beside this one. Trust me, you won't want to miss them. Thank you for being with us. See you again on the next journey where the truth will continue to shine.